Bitcoin wastes way too much energy. Welcome to another episode of Bitcoin for Skeptics, and today we want to talk about this objection. I have heard it many times, and it is more like an ethical objection. It's like, well, I can't really support a network system that wastes so much of our precious energy. Let's think about it. Let's first define the word waste. Would we say that when you heat up your room in the winter in order so you don't freeze, would you say you wasted energy? If you put on the light on your car when you drive around in the night, would you say you just wasted energy? No, I don't think we define that as waste, because we say this energy consumption and expenditure actually serves a greater purpose. And that greater purpose, for example, to be warm in the winter inside of the house, is well worth using that energy. So we wouldn't talk about wasting energy in those cases. And I think it's the same with Bitcoin, that this use of energy is not just for fun. It's not for just, because we have too much energy, let's waste it. It serves a very specific purpose. It serves to secure the network, because it means that every miner can only insert a new block into the blockchain if he has first solved a cryptographic puzzle. And in order to solve that puzzle, he needs to expend a lot of energy. That means he had already invested a lot of money into solving that puzzle, and that means he's not incentivized to then insert an invalid transaction into the block. I hope you get this. It means the energy consumption serves the function of miners being honest, because if they wouldn't have needed to spend energy and therefore money, they might as well just try to insert some invalid transactions, and that would mean that the whole system of Bitcoin would collapse because you couldn't trust it. Now the main question then becomes, is this kind of security of network worth the expenditure? Is that actually of value? And I would think it is, because it actually changes the whole of society. If we have an immutable network which is secure, that means we can start saving money again. That means that we become free from a lot of confiscation by governments, from a lot of pressures, from inflation. So there is actually a huge value in that energy expenditure, because it secures a peer-to-peer cash network, and that peer-to-peer cash network opens up a lot of possibilities. That is the one thing that I would say it is not a waste of energy, because we get something back from it, and that is very useful. The other problem with that objection is that it kind of presupposes that energy in itself is a scarce resource, and we really have to be careful with it. And I think there's a big misunderstanding about it. First of all, as much as we know from our Earth that we live on, there is incredible amounts of energy available. I mean, just the solar energy, the sun, or wind energy, or water energy, there's so much. So the question is not really, do we have enough energy? The question is, do we have enough time to make it useful for our needs? And Bitcoin serves a very interesting function in that, because it can actually use energy that would have gone wasted beforehand. Think about, if there's a big dam and people collect water and then they put it through a turbine, and that turbine moves really quickly and produces energy. Now, usually you can only do this in a profitable way if you're close to a city, because the cities are the places where energy is needed. Now Bitcoin, you don't need a city in order to use that energy for mining. You could just do it like out in the countryside, 2,000 kilometers away from the next city. What does that mean? Well, that means that all of a sudden there is actually use for energy really close to that dam in the middle of nowhere. And that means that because somebody is using that energy and is actually building something in order to use it, a infrastructure starts to occur. So energy all of a sudden serves to build new streets, build new infrastructure in places that wouldn't have existed beforehand, because nobody would have wanted to go there. And now the Bitcoin miners go to a lot of places where energy is cheap, and by using that energy in cheap places, all of a sudden there's a new use of that whole infrastructure, or they actually build it. So I think the whole energy question is a different question in regards to Bitcoin, because Bitcoin, of course, doesn't go to the big cities like London and just uses the energy there. It goes to different places where it's cheaper, and that changes the whole energy market. But that's just a side aspect. I think the main reply to that objection is that the value of Bitcoin is in proof of work, because we know that everybody who wants to add a block has expended a lot of energy, therefore they are inclined to only insert valid transactions. That's it for today. Have a good day.